Morning friends, Brian here, and I am 51 years old and I'm self-employed, and here's why. So, for those of you that have been following my channel, you probably know that for many years, I have been a professional musician and music instructor. And over my decades of doing that, my musical education was all private. Studying with really good instructors, studying with people that had PhDs in music, my own self-instruction. But of course, when I was younger, I'm like, well, like anyone else would think, can't make money from music, so it's a hobby, so I have to get something practical. How ironic that turned out to be. So I went and got a trade in my early 20s in the technology field. And I started doing what everyone else was doing. I started working for different technology companies. And there's a lot of bullshit in that. You know, I used to hate, it's so funny, I used to hate setting an alarm and getting up early to go to a job, where now I thrive on getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, every morning, by my own volition, and going to the gym and working out and starting my day. Being self-employed, it's kind of funny how that works. But anyway, I didn't like working for other companies. I remember you were forced to do a lot of overtime, giving up a lot of weekends. And it was the politics. It was the backstabbing, the people talking, being friendly to your face, and then behind your back, you know, saying awful things, trying to derail your career, your promotions. And I did that for a number of years. And I kind of started to learn, I started to realize, you know, the best workers, the most reliable workers aren't always the ones that get promoted. From company to company, I would see this consistently, and just the bullshit, the troublemakers, the drama, the politics. And no matter how hard you stayed away from it, it always seemed to affect everybody. So one day, I was working for a company, and I'd been with them for some time, and it was the summertime, probably 25 years ago or so. And I remember they said, hey, we're going to lose this contract if we don't have you in here doing all this overtime so we can not lose this huge contract with this big company. I said, okay. So for like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was pulling 20 and 22-hour shifts. And because of where I was up, there was a promotion coming up. The other person who was up for it, who's, you know, at the time I didn't know, but I grew to like this person. But at that time, I remember being there. It was a holiday weekend. And I put in hours and hours and hours and hours, doing 20-hour shifts, 22-hour shifts, going home, sleeping a couple hours, getting up, going back, being a company man, doing the right thing. I remember this other person who was up for the promotion too came in one day, and despite the urgency of the situation, got up after about an hour. All the big bosses were in there working too. And this person just said, you know what? I don't need to be here. This is a holiday weekend. It's beautiful out. I'm out of here. See you later. So that person got the promotion, not me. But I just remember thinking, I was already playing as a professional musician on weekends. I'd already been giving music lessons, guitar lessons. And I remember just thinking at that time, you know, this isn't life. This is a trap, man. So I just thought, you know what? I don't care if I have to live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, but if I can make a living doing what I want to be happy, then that's what I'm going to do. So as the market was always up and down a lot, for a lot of these companies, I don't know, about a year later or so, they started doing layoffs. The company started having hard times. The company eventually shut down. Anyone who's worked in high tech can relate to this. There's never any real job security. You just don't know. You could be there for a year and then get laid off. You could be there for 6 months. You could be there for 5 years. And when my time came, I think I made it to about the 5th round of layoffs. And when the boss said, hey man, I'm really sorry, but I said, okay. I had so many thousands of dollars of savings. I had, in Canada, they call it employment insurance, where you pay into it. And then if you happen to get laid off or lose your job, you get so many months of payment to help you out to stay on your feet or get back on your feet. I had about 9 months of that, and I just made the jump to playing professionally full-time and teaching full-time. So I started into the self-employment arena. Now, in doing that, so I was like good riddance to the whole high-tech thing. Those jobs, the steady paycheck and the benefits were nice. I must say that. When you're self-employed, it changes. But I did miss all the politics, the backstabbing, all the bullshit. And I hated getting up in the morning to work for another company. Working for myself, I took gigs playing for other bands that needed a lead guitar player. And I started working at advertising and marketing for getting guitar students. And it was a very slow process. I was very fortunate because in the area there was a business that had 2 music stores that also gave lessons in my area. And there were 2 owners at the time. And the one owner, he talked to me, he said, look, we don't like the guitar teacher we have now. He had some personality struggles. He said he's got 4 students, he can't keep anybody. He doesn't have any retention, meaning, you can teach someone for a month or 2, but you want people to like the lessons, to like you, so they stay for an extended period of time. Then they're improving on the instrument, and they're paying fees every month. So, if someone comes and tries a lesson or 2 and hates it, okay, it happens sometimes, but you want people to stay. So anyway, that was kind of an interesting situation too, because of the 2 owners. The one owner, he was great. He was very cool, man, when it came to payday, because I ended up helping them run one of their other music stores. I wasn't making a lot of money doing that. Actually, looking back, I'm shaking my head going, dude, what the hell? For how little I was paid and how much time it took. But anyway, I had a lot of responsibilities on my shoulders at that time. But I started building up. I worked up with that company to about 65 guitar students. And I was under the impression that, hey, this is great. The more money I make, the more money you guys are making. Everyone's happy. But it didn't seem to be that way. The one owner, I liked both the owners, but the one owner got sick for a while. He had cancer. And then when he came back, he had to go through chemotherapy and everything. I was very empathetic. But when he came back, he just didn't seem to be quite the same guy. And the other owner left. There's a big to-do over that. But the one owner, when it came time for payday, he would pay me once a month. And I had been there for years at this point. I was making him a lot of money. Because, at that time, you just split the fees, or he would make all the money from the lessons and pay me a certain amount. I kind of forget now. But I remember for 5 or 6 years, I got paid the same wage. So I went from 4 students to 65, and I had good retention. Some people were staying for years because they liked me and they liked my lessons and they liked my teaching approach. There wasn't a lot of return with just, I don't know. When it came time to get paid, he'd get in a really bad mood. And sometimes he'd almost be going over things, nickeling and diming you, and you'd be like, oh my God, man, like I'm helping run your other store for probably less than minimum wage, like next to nothing. You're making all this money now. Like, it just got really weird. And it would get very tense. And then sometimes his wife and his young kids would come in on that day, and he'd get in an even worse mood. And I'd be like, oh my God. I just kind of realized one day, it was a Christmas bonus. He handed me a $50 bill. I'm like, oh my God, man, I've made you thousands of dollars and this is all. It was just very weird. And that dynamic of the tension all the time. When it was time to pay me, he paid me once a month, one large sum. And then there'd be sometimes if he was to pay me on a Friday, he'd say, hey, can we just wait till Monday? It was just a lot of things that weren't cool. And I remember just saying, okay. And he had a very confrontational personality, as I can have. I started cutting my availability back a day. And anyway, one day he mentioned that it really annoyed him that I did that I wasn't available, and I started increasing my own students. But he just wasn't getting it. It was like, man, I'm really good at what I do, and you're not providing any incentive for me to stick around. In fact, I feel like you're almost ruining this. So anyway, I got to a point where one day I saw how he was treating another teacher that was leaving, and I'm just like, dude, I'm done. I just told him, I'm done. I don't care. We're on better terms since. I bumped into him a few times, but from then on, I just started teaching for myself. And at that time, the guitar teaching industry was quite good. My best, I had over 100 students a week. I had some teachers working for me. And I treated them good. I paid them all right up front. They didn't have to wait halfway through the month or anything. I just prefer working for myself. And it can be very hard sometimes, especially in this day and age. I did a video a while ago about the guitar lesson business. Since COVID, probably, it's just not what it used to be. It really isn't. You used to be able to make a really good living doing that. I'll never understand the mentality of someone who's willing to invest in a guitar, but not take proper lessons, even for a few months to help them get going, because people have this thing saying, well, I'll just teach myself. Well, that 9 out of 10 times, that doesn't work. I don't want to get into a long video about that, but so I've had to recently open up a side business. So all my friends out there that have been very kind corresponding with me, please understand I have a lot going on, and I'm sorry if I'm not quick to get back to you guys. When you're self-employed, you can write off a lot of things for your business, but you can't show a lot of income. So come income tax time, it can be nice, but when you go into the bank needing a loan, it can get very tricky. But man, I don't miss the bullshit of working for other companies. There's always bullshit. No matter what you did, what you tried to avoid, who you tried to avoid, there was always bullshit. Again, I miss the steady paycheck. The steady paycheck and the benefits was nice. When you're self-employed, man, sometimes there's some up or downs. You have really good months, and then sometimes it can be not quite as good. But I just learned from that, like, I'm meant to be self-employed. I can't, working for someone else is very, very difficult for me. But that's just me. You know, I just found I had a lot more happiness working for myself. The buck stops with you. So it has its challenges as well. It's probably not for everybody. But if you have a problem, like, you're the one that has to fix it. So, but that's my take on it, guys. What about you guys? How many of you are self-employed, have been self-employed, and how many of you work for a company? As I said, at my age, sometimes the steady paycheck and the benefits would be nice. But I don't know. I've always preferred to be an entrepreneur and working for myself. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. What do you guys think? Comment below. I hope you guys are having a great summer. This is Brian signing off.